All right. We give thanks for this moment in time, giving thanks for the cycles and seasons, giving thanks for the awareness and the willingness to allow ourselves to align with the cycles and the seasons of life, allow them to assist us on our journey, allow ourselves to hear the divine assignment during the cycles and season. We give thanks for this full moon period, all the moon periods. We give thanks for this full moon period and the consciousness to reflect and refine, as we continue on our journey of growth and unfoldment and expansion, and as we have been called to do. We give thanks for our privilege as divine beings. May we continue to walk this journey with a light heart, with a clear mind and a willing spirit to follow the will and the way of the spirit of truth in our lives. May our ears and eyes be clear so that we can hear, so that we can see. And may we not just be hearers of the divine word, but doers of it as well. We give thanks. Ashe. Amen. 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 All right. So let's jump into it and do it. So we are in a full moon, November full moon, and the sign that this moon is in, this full moon is in, according to 12 sign astrology, is Gemini. So before I even get into what I feel comes with a full moon Gemini energy and what are the divine assignments, let me first, and I always do this, I like to kind of remind us of where we are right now. Okay. Remind us of what space we're in, the energy right now, the call of the hour in general. So we're in a serious space of shifting, of purging, cleansing, revealing, a lot of things being revealed, on so many different levels. On a personal level, you should be experiencing some revelations when it comes to self. If you're doing your work of retracing the steps, reflections, inquiry, asking yourself questions, really going in, making sure that you are able to see and be aware of maybe some programming that you have been under, and able to really do your renunciation work, then you should be experiencing some revelations. You should be experiencing some shifting. You should be about the business of purifying your heart, purifying the soul, purifying the mind, reestablishing value systems, belief systems. All of these things is kind of the call of the hour right now. All right, that's just on a personal level, but we may also be experiencing some revelations when it comes to family, friends, relationships. Relationships are shifting. And then we are all experiencing also, many of us are seeing or noticing a lot of things on the public or world front is being revealed. Things that people maybe suspected, or, it was known but hidden or not spoken about. Now it's being revealed. These things are being revealed, and it's like nothing can be hidden anymore, right? And so we've been talking about over the past full moons and new moons this idea of integrity, true integrity, right? Where you're no longer living a lie, and oftentimes we find ourselves living a lie because the truth makes us uncomfortable. The truth means if I live the truth, then that means I have to be courageous. I have to let some things go. I have to move forward on some things if I was to really live in integrity, right? And so, but that's been a big call of the hour. We must continue to continue to live from a place of integrity, and not the moral standard, not the human moral standard integrity, but the spiritual character, the one that's governed under spiritual character integrity. What is that integrity? That is you living in spirit and in truth. You in tune with spirit, you in tune with yourself, which is essentially in tune with God, and you're living out the guidance, the commands, the nudgings of spirit over your life, and that is living in integrity. And many of us found ourselves living a lie because, again, living in truth might be uncomfortable. Living in truth may call for a level of discipline that you haven't been able to live out yet. Living in truth may cause for you to some relationships to fizzle out. Living in truth may cause you to need to do more. May call for you to open up to establish some relationships, or it may call for you to move in ways that you are not usually comfortable moving, to move in integrity. And so, but now it's a time where you can try not to, but it's going to constantly be revealed to you in your own consciousness or in life around you. Everything will continuously be revealed, and everything will continue to point in the direction that you're supposed to be going. You ain't going to be able to run too much. You're going to be able to hide too much. You may try to, keep going into those old spaces, those comfortable spaces, but it's just not going to work. You're still going to get those nudges. You're still going to feel uncomfortable. You're still going to feel like I need to do more. You're still going to feel like I need to grow. And so you may as well surrender, to spirit, surrender to truth, and allow life to unfold. And it's a way we can do it where it's not so painful, where it's not so tough for us, where it's more harmonious and at peace. And that is in the way that I'll be talking about this evening. This is a part of it. What I'll be talking about this evening is a part of the certain kind of refinement that is helpful in order for us to live out this a life of integrity within our own spirit and truth, when it may be a little tough, okay? To be obedient to spirit and do the will of God, and allow things to happen in your life, and stop the resistance, and stop the fixing and fighting and forcing, and sit down and listen, and all of these different type of things. There are ways that we can, that there are things that we can do, or at least reflect upon, that can maybe assist us in doing that in a more peaceful way. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight. So this full moon in Gemini is very much so an airy type energy. It's very much so focused on intellect, thinking, ideas, communicating, translating, transferring. Like, that's what the Gemini energy is about. It's also about duality. So there are a few divine assignments I'd love to present to the group for us to, at the very least, reflect upon. And then also maybe if you feel that you can take what I'll be talking about tonight and include this in your own reflection work, your own personal work, that would be amazing as well. All right. So let's talk about divine communication. Let's talk about communication in general. Communication on a divine level, meaning not confound to what we perceive communication to be. A lot of people in general, maybe understand communication. Mostly it's verbal. We know it can be nonverbal, but a lot of people go straight towards communicating being something that's just verbal, something that's spoken. But I want us to reflect upon this and keep this in our mind's eye, that communication is larger than that, and it plays a huge role in all of our lives. Communication, it plays a big role in all of our lives. And many will tell you communication plays a huge role in a relationship being successful, or a relationship not being successful. And this is true because communication it is a vortex of energy. Things that are communicated become a vortex of energy that create. Communication creates. And divine communication shows up in various ways. It shows up as thought. Thought is divine communication. Feeling is communication. Feelings show up as messengers. That's a communication. Judgment falls under communication, because that judgment is being communicated to your own heart, your own soul. Perception is communication. Whatever you perceive is communicating to you a certain thing. And as that is communicated to you, you begin to believe, you begin to have ideas, maybe you begin to emote, you start to feel certain levels of emotion because of your perception. And that emotion becomes, thoughts in motion oftentimes. Memory is a form of communication. It's a form of your subconscious communicating to you. And as it communicates to you, depending on where your mind is, it's going to impact how your life unfolds. It's going to impact how you think. It's going to impact how you receive things from that memory. Memory is divine communication. Signs and symbols along our journey is communication. So this Gemini energy has a lot to do with all of those different things. So during this full moon of Gemini, I will venture to say a theme is communication, but not just verbal communication, but communication that shows up as thoughts, feelings, judgments, perceptions, memories, signs and symbols along the journey, and other various forms of communication. Okay, that's first and foremost. And so now, because we're in the full moon, I want to get into some of the things that maybe it would be helpful for us to do some refinement work so that as these divine communication channels are at work, we are able to receive and accept and allow them to support us on our journey, rather than them being things that bring confusion or them being things that steer us down kind of a negative mindset or a negative way of receiving life and thinking about life, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is, and write this down, this is first and foremost, accept duality. Refine your judgment. Accept duality. Refine your judgment. These are the words that came to me in this very moment. Duality, it can be said in a different kind of way. I'm channeling almost everything I'm saying these days because, I really want to keep refining that spirit is leading me to. But this is what I mean when I'm talking about duality. In every situation, it can be received in a way that you see the quote unquote negative, or it can be received where you see the positive. Duality. All right. Duality. We can call it, there's a high side and there's a low side. There's the divine way to look at it or the carnal way to look at it. Duality. That's what I'm talking about. Accepting this duality, but refining your judgment about it. Now, this is what I want to talk about a little bit. When we accepted the idea of something being good or bad, it really planted a seed that creates resistance and sometimes, many times, chaos in the consciousness. And what we as truth believers in truth, believers or strivers for Christ consciousness, what is helpful for us to do is to see all as God and declare that God is goodness. And because God is good, all is good, right? And I'm even really pushing to challenge even looking at things as good and maybe going further and saying all is God and God is truth. God is the word. And so all has the word embedded in it. All has the truth embedded in it. God is complete. God is the all mind, the one mind, the divine intelligence. And so everything has that as a part of it. It has the sum total of God in it. Okay. And that is this goodness that we talk about. It's the fact that every situation, every circumstance, everything, all is God. And so there is truth in everything. There is absoluteness. There is there is infinite potential, dormant potentiality in all things. And so this is that refinement of judgment, throwing out this tendency to judge good and bad, because what happens is first of all, you go down a road of potentially taking things personally. Now you're judging it. And so now you see you're judging good or bad. And if you see it as good, it can close you off to seeing the fullness. If you see it as bad, it can close you off from seeing it in fullness. But if you see it as is what it is and stay open, then you have the ability to experience that dormant potentiality or infinite potentiality in whatever it is that you're experiencing. So let me make this practical, as some would say, right? You're going through a circumstance with your money. Let's take money. All right. You've been laid off. You don't have anything lined up for you to go and have do anything. So it's looking a little bleak right now. It's feeling like the struggle. All right. Now, your mind can start looking at it as bad. You can start going down the negative side of it. Or your mind can start looking at how you seeing something good in it. Like, well, maybe it's because this, you know how we do when we try to stay positive. Well, maybe this is God's way of showing me this and that and this and that. And then we start affirming, we start saying, well, God got me and I'll be all right and all these different type of things. Well, staying in the neutral zone is staying at that space where you're not necessarily reaching for the quote unquote good. You're definitely not going towards the bad, right? Just staying right there in the middle. I imagine it would sound something like this in getting that news, like, didn't really expect that. Wow, okay. Well, it is what it is. What I do trust is that, and then you begin to affirm truth. You begin to affirm the reality of God in spirit and in truth. What I do acknowledge and affirm and accept as truth is that God is an all-seeing God, all-knowing God, God knows. You go down your list of aspects of God that come into your spirit. And that truth is what encourages you, it's what lightens the heart and keep you open. I pray that the word is clear. So the refinement of the judgment is not, I'm going to go further than saying, making sure you see the good in all. It's how do we kind of stay at the 0 point in the middle? Well, we're not leaning over here to the bad. We're not trying to push ourselves over here to the good. We're just staying right here in the middle point. Well, I'm not going to absorb this situation, this circumstance, this thought, this whatever it may be. I'm going to let it be what it is. I'm going to observe it. I'm going to just be here in this space. I'm going to be open. And what I am going to do is I'm going to acknowledge the truth of God. I'm going to acknowledge the reality of God and be open and be light. That's it. And if things come to mind that start to make you feel like, oh, I think this is showing me this. I think this is showing me that. You're still not trying to see the good. You're just seeing. You're not going over here to acknowledge the bad or the struggle or you just seeing what it is. So even if you're seeing the money is dwindling a little bit, you see it. It's there. But you're staying at the 0 point. Give me a thumbs up or give me a we hear you or give me understood or give me clear if you're hearing what I'm saying. Okay. Why am I mentioning this? The duality and the need for refinement of your judgment to stay at the 0 point, at the middle, is because however you judge and however you perceive, give thanks. Shireen says clear. Anjanette says clear. When you start to pass judgment, you're communicating to your entire being that judgment. And you begin to create the pigeonholes, the blockages, the gates, the boxes that we put ourselves in oftentimes. Because instead of trying to stay at the neutral zone, stay at the 0 point, stay open, we begin to box ourselves into a perception or to a judgment. We begin to box ourselves into that judgment. So we box ourselves into, oh, it's for the good. And now we boxing ourselves into the perception of good that we have in our minds. And so we can even struggle when God is doing what God is doing in the situation, whether it looks like what you think it should look like or not, that fits the bill of good. But God is doing what it is doing anyway. It's calibrating how it's divinely meant to calibrate. And if you have a perception of good in your mind that looks a certain way, you could begin to fret and not be able to, one, enjoy the journey, two, be present in it and aware, and a vessel and a cooperative component, because you're too busy still stuck in your perception of the good, just like you can be stuck in the perception of the bad. Stay in the middle. It is what it is. I'm open to see. What I do trust is God is. This is the power of you studying the names of God and you having the names of God on your tongue and on your mind, because you can constantly remind yourself of the aspects and the reality of God. Because sometimes within this human experience, we can forget. And so remembrance is necessary. And it helps you to stay out of the zone of judgment and stay into the middle zone, in the free zone, in the open zone, in the allowing zone, in the zone of love, in the zone of openness, in the zone of surrender, right? When you're surrendering, you're not trying to hold on either way. The next point I want to make is, and I've been mentioning this word, but purifying your perception. Purifying your perception. So during this full moon, I invite you to reflect upon the purification of your perception. Now, how do we do that? The more we get to know God, the more we acknowledge God, the more we study God, be with God, allow God, the more our perception shifts. All right? The more our perception shifts, how we see things shift. Because now you're looking from the eye or the sight of a divine eye. And so you're seeing things from an aspect of the truth of the reality of God. And the purification of perception is oftentimes needed because we are humans that have certain senses. So we see things, we hear things, we feel things, we experience things. And from our experiences, we have maybe built certain perceptions. And from other people's experiences and from the collective experience, all of these different things build certain perceptions around. And these are beliefs. Perceptions come from what you believe, what you're thinking, the ideas that come to your mind. And so it's helpful for us to feed ourselves things that help build belief systems that affirm, confirm, proclaim the reality of God and the aspects of God, right? And so if you think about freedom, and maybe one of the things we know as truth is that we are all free, we have nothing to fear. It helps you to build your perception around, it helps you to purify your perception so that as you're on your journey and you are experiencing life, you can perceive things in a way that affirms your freedom and your and the fact that you have no need to fear, by meditating on reflections of that freedom, reflection of that expansiveness, reflection of that divine intelligence, reflections of that reality of God, the reality of truth. How does that show up in this world? How has that shown up in your life? How does that show up in scripture? How does that show up? How does the different aspects of God show up in our experience. When you meditate on those type of things, meaning, you know how, you know, you will hear some older folks say, look at God, God's so good. Look at God, look at God, look at, like they can see God. You hear not just elder people, but I hear them say it a lot. But you know, I feel it sometimes. Sometimes it can be the smallest things. I was watching the squirrels this morning, the last few mornings. They've been busy, child. Honey, hiding places everywhere. They just busy out here in the garden, hiding their nuts. But I just watched them and their movements, what they're doing, and just reflecting on the whole reality that they are flowing from a divine intelligence that has them to be doing what they're doing to prepare for a whole nother season. And the fact that they can remember those things, like I just started thinking about all of that, and all of that reminded me of God. So many aspects shows up. So many aspects of God show up in me just reflecting on the life of a squirrel in the fall, heading towards the winter. You know, when we do that, when we do those type of meditations and reflections on the depiction of the aspects of God in our lives, we are purifying our perception. If you're able to see God in a tree, in an ant, in humans, and if you're able to see God because your mind is there to be able to see it, you're going to purify your perception of life. And so as life unfolds for you, you're going to be able to walk this journey and keep your mind stayed on God because your perception is different. You can be going through the same thing that somebody else is going through, but you perceive it in a different way. Are we understanding? And the way to do that is to take time to do that. Do it with God's creation. Do it with God's creation in your life, God's creation in this world. The way God has worked in your life, the way God has formulated and calibrated and did different things in your life, reflect upon it. Reflect, if you can't do that, that's okay. Or if you can do that, also add in there, reflect upon how you see God in nature, how you see God in life, how you see God all around you, how you see God in the seasons and the cycles, how you see God in the way things unfold. That purifies your perception. All right. Give me a thumbs up or say clear or amen or ashe if you hear the word and you hear it clearly. So that's purifying your perception. First one is accepting duality and refining your judgment. The next one is purifying your perception. This is the full moon assignment. Ashe. All right, I got ashe. And the last one I'm going to give is using your intellect as insight. And I won't even say using, allowing your intellect to serve you by providing insight, meaning seeing the essence of things. So I was just talking to somebody and I said, man, intellect is beautiful because it can serve you in a beautiful way when you're reflected upon God. Because when you study a tree or you study mountains or you study the ecosystem or you study the land, you study these things, you really study, like really get to know, like build your knowledge on God's creations. You study how things work. You study, like when you really, I don't see anything wrong with it, but I feel that it is to serve your insight. Because sometimes when you're going through things in life, and you done studied the caterpillar, it'll make you think about the caterpillar. It'll give you a little insight. Like, or the mustard seed, or the fig tree. Okay. We just, in the series that we're doing on Wednesdays, we just talked about, the miracles of nature and how nature is used in the Bible so much. And I believe that we can use it as well as teachers for us, as supporters on our journey. But the more you know, when you know about the chakras, when you know about nature, when you know about the soul, when you know about the spirit, when you know about how the sun impacts your energy and your aura, and when you know about the different spiritual sects, and when you know about the different deities and how they show up in different ways, when you grow in knowledge, intellectual knowledge, it can absolutely serve as insight, not just as earthbound knowledge. And so all things are well, the intellect is good, and this Gemini energy is absolutely a Aries, so it's intellectual and intuitive. But remember this duality, intellect, intuition, coming together for integration. This is what I feel that we can reflect upon during this full moon period. Being able to build my intellect, appreciating the fact that as conscious being, I can expand my intellect, and how that can truly serve in bringing about some insight in my life. I can truly say I'm grateful to know a little bit about a lot because as I'm moving through life and as I'm experiencing various things, there are things that I have dots to connect. There are dots there in the intellectual mind to connect that brings me into this insight that spirit is trying to show me, that things are trying to be shown to me. Oftentimes it's a lack of knowledge why maybe you're missing something. You're missing something. This is why coaches and counselors and all of that are very helpful, because they're able to help you to see something, help to show you something. And so the divine reality of intellect is a beautiful thing because it can add to insight. And I want to share something in Truth Unity, on the Truth Unity website from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. They talk about the inner eye. They say the inner eye is spiritual vision. It says intuitive seeing with the eye of truth. It also talks about vision. It says spiritual vision is seeing God as the foundation of all, the source of all, and the substance of all. Seeing the good, the true, and the beautiful everywhere. In this manner is the eye single and vision perfected. And so I'm trying to highlight here that when we grow in knowledge intellectually, it can help us to be able to see the God, the good in it all. When we grow in knowledge, it grows it. Now, does this mean someone who don't know how to read and maybe don't know a lot can't see God? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I am saying that if we are ones that exercise our intellectual mind, which most people I know who tune into these calls or are part of OU Ministries, you are readers. You're one who want to expand in knowledge. You want to know stuff, child. All y'all be doing stuff. Y'all done signed up for stuff, read books, wrote something all y'all, all y'all. And that's what I know about it. We all the same. We walk each other home and birds of a feather flock together. Okay. So I know this to be true, that many, if not all of y'all, be deep diving. You know, we'll have fun jumping in a rabbit hole and just waddling in there. We ain't trying to come out. We'll stay in there for a minute. I get it. But I want us to be clear that everything that God blesses us with, including the intellect, is to serve God, and it's for the glory of God. It's to serve truth. It's to expand truth. It's to highlight truth. It's to point us to truth. It's to connect us with truth. It's to help us implode in truth. It's to help. That's what it's for. That's everything. The circumstances you go through, the situations you go through, the visions you have, the passion you have, all of it is all pointing towards truth, what we call the good or God. It's pointing towards the truth. And so if you're one, say you go and you start learning about, I remember I was reading up on palmistry. You know what I mean? I could take that palmistry, getting to know about it, studying it, doing it, practicing all of that, and I could just go full-blown intellectual in it. intellectual, financial, and all those type of things. But what's most powerful about learning about what's in the hand is yet again seeing how amazing the Creator is. And I can see how palmistry shows up in astrology. It shows up in cosmology. It shows all of these things that I'm seeing and learn about is just showing me the goodness of God and how God is so vast, but so it's interesting. So vast, but so one. So vast, but so one. It's just, that's the best I can say. It's oneness remains. Even though it's so vast, oneness remains. It's just like religion and spiritual, all of these, Ifa, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hindu, it's all still one. We all still talking about one source of life, one energy. I love seeing charts where it compares and the deities and the angels and the apostles and it's just showing all of it because it's all one. And that's the insight that is beneficial for us continually see. Is that God is in it all. And God is trying to show you in it all. It's like we are like seeing that the walnut looks like the brain. It's deep. The fig looks like the inside of the digestive tract. You know, it's all deep because it's all one. Hopefully in that insight, we grow in that understanding of oneness, and that rewinding it back begins to purify our perception and refine our judgment. Because if we see it as that one, how can we begin to try to separate it and judge it? Oh, that's good and that's bad. How? It's all one. It's all one. So we can see it is what it is, then we can say, okay, I'm not going to judge it good or bad, but what I do know about this thing we call God, or the reality of God, is there's no failure in it. And it's the giver of the life and it's the giver of death. It's the restrainer and it's the expander. It's the constraint. Like it does what it needs to do for the doing of the wholeness. The end is always wholeness, is always wellness, is always expansion, is always growth, because it is life. And life is that. And there's nothing else to life but that. And there is no reality in death. It's only life. There is no end. It's only this forever going life force energy. And so I think this full moon is absolutely pointing us to how we think about life, how we perceive life. What is our memory like? What kind of memory, thinking about the computer, like what is our software? What is the running background program? What is that memory we have, that is communicating to our hearts, establishing our soul, feeding the ideas and the thoughts, and ultimately becoming our reality? What is that? And have we purified to a place where our reality becomes a conduit for the glory of God? Is it that where it's glorifying the Creator? And I feel we have the ability to do that. We have the ability to do that. And the more we refine our judgment, purify our perceptions, and allow our intellect to help us to be insightful, meaning being full of sight, to being able to see God. That's the sight that we're talking about here. Being insightful, being able to see, what God is always showing us. It's always signs and symbols. The more we do that, the more the resistance will drop, the more the surrender will deepen, and the more we're able to really be a vessel of the glory of God. We're able to do that. So I pray that word is clear. All right. One more ashe. Clear. Amen. I mean, if you got that word, and I'm just going to go back and review those 3 pointers, just running it back to what communication is. Communication is not just a verbal communication, speaking with your mouth. Divine communication shows up and manifests as thought. Thoughts communicate to the being. It communicates to you. Those thoughts become things. It starts to create. Feelings are messengers. That's a communication. Judgment, that's a communication. You're judging. So once you start judging, it spark thoughts and ideas and perceptions. Your perceptions is a form of communication. Your memory is a form of communication. The signs and symbols all around us is a form of communication along the journey. And even the journey is a way of communicating. Your whole journey is communicating to you. Sit down and reflect on it. Just look at it. It's gonna it's gonna give you a whole book. It's communicating. All of this is communication energy. And so where do we stand in this whole grand, cycle of communication that is all around us and within us that's happening, whether we open our mouths or not? We know that we can open our mouth and say something, but that's not what you really communicating. You may be saying certain words, but your vibration is communicating something different. And we know that because of what the reality is manifesting as. So you could be saying one thing, but vibrationally you're communicating to the universe or, something way different. And you can see that from your reality. But where does that leave us in that? Well, I'm venturing to say that if we just, with our conscious mind, work on being aware of our judgments, try to stay in the middle. Try to stay in the middle. Stay open. 0 point is what I saw something. It was an image I saw one time that showed 0 point. It's like on a left, right, you got left brain, right brain, you got reason and logic, you got creativity and all of it. Then you got the 0 point. You got the good, the bad, then you got the 0 point, the neutral. That's where we want to kind of right there. Okay, there's nothing wrong to go over here and go over there, but we want to kind of always reroute ourselves back to that middle. Okay, God, it is what it is. All right. I like saying, our favorite thing saying, when something just goes swoop, I'd be like, all right, God, you got the wheel. Show me. I am not a passenger driver. You got the wheel. It is what it is. All right. I'm right here. I ain't even holding on. I'm just floating with it, flowing with it. All right. I'm gonna just see what I can see. And I bear witness that anytime I do that, I see something amazing. I experience something amazing, something I just wouldn't even thought of. What it say, exceedingly abundantly above all that I've ever thought, it's always, when I'm able to move past those judgments. The other thing I'm suggesting is that we purify our perception. How do we do that? By allowing ourselves to reflect upon, meditate on the reality of God, the aspects of God, and ask ourselves, how do those things show up in our lives so that now we can see how it shows up even when we're going through certain situations. These things, we can see it because we have seen it. It's like your perception oftentimes is derived from what you've been able to experience or see. And so meditation is so powerful because when you meditate on God and your mind starts taking you there, I don't know if you all have experienced this. I can be meditating on, and I'm saying one of the most powerful ways I have been able to really continue to get to understand and know God and grow in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of God is studying the names. That's been one of the greatest ways. So I'm sitting here thinking about the name that means the responsive one. And I'm meditating on responsive. What does it mean to be responsive? I'm thinking about that. So I'm thinking about responsive, okay? Then I'm looking up the etymology of the definition of it. Then I'm thinking responsiveness. How does responsiveness look? How does responsiveness sound? Where does responsiveness show up in nature? How does the reality of God respond to this and that? And like this is responded to. I mean, I begin to think about the sun and the moon and the rain and how the birds get together and move to the winter. Like that's God, that's the responsiveness. It's like it can just grow and grow and just grow into, it's like I can sit for hours thinking about how responsiveness shows up naturally you know, and how God shows up. So responsiveness shows up, God is showing up, it's showing you. And then so now how do I give over to being the responsive one, the one that responds? How does the responsiveness showing up in the birds and the squirrels and all of these different type of things? How does that show up in me? You know, the ability to respond. So one of the ways I meditate and think about is, okay, my ability to listen to my intuition, do what the spirit telling me to do, stop what I'm doing, because I hear it. It could be the littlest thing. It's like, you know, I usually keep one of these heaters on in here, and spirit said to go turn that heat off. I was like, well, I always keep it on. And then I heard myself telling myself, go turn that off. Then it's no reason why you just had the thought, just go turn it off. What it's going to do? What it's going to hurt you? Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'd be super blown if a darn electrical fire happened, just so happened. Then here I go. This how we do now. Then, man, spirit told me, you know, it's like, I don't want to do it, you know. But that might be little, but it's no judgment on little or big when spirit is talking to you. Like, practice doing it for the little things, and you will start doing it for what maybe you consider as big things too. You'll start listening because spirit always talking to you. And then you'll be amazed with life because you have now embodied the responsiveness of the creator. And so that is that reflecting, and that's how you change your perception. So it becomes easy for you to just kind of move through life, all the circumstances, situation, and you're able to perceive it in a different kind of way because you've expanded your mind in those things. And it's nothing greater than expanding your mind in the aspects or the realities of God, because all is God. So, you know, as we try to expand our mind and hear that where the intellect can take us and do all of that, listen, that's wonderful, because the next point is talking about that intellect that gives you the insight. But first things first, expand your mind in the reality of God, so that as you're growing in that intellect, it's real juicy then, because you learned about chakras, and you can imagine how chakras show up in scripture and this and that, because you've reflected upon the reality of God and how vast it is in its vast dimensions. You've reflected upon it. You've purified your perception by allowing yourself to see different things. And if you ask me my 2 cents, I don't think it's a greater way to do it than to meditate. It's to reflect, meditate. I ain't talking about just the meditation. Like, I mean, meditate. Like, meditate on the reality of God. Take that reality, meditate on it. Carry it with you throughout the day. Meditate on it. That reality, God. And like I said, the names of God is an easy way to do it, because it's giving you a whole list, you know, he's giving you lists of these aspects, and scripture pour it out too, you know, in its very poetic way of giving you the aspects of God. And so many different things do too, you know. I thought about like African proverbs or Odu. Even Odu gives you different aspects or stories or depictions of God. And the Hindu, Buddhist, all of them, you know, Shiva, when it's talking about Shiva, I mean, in all of them. And that gets me to my last point, because I can go on and on forever. The intellect part, all right? The intellect part, what do we do in this grand cycle of communication? We're always perceiving, memory, thinking, ideas, conscious. Growing your intellect so that it can serve to help you with your insight as you're going about life, as you're having thoughts, as you're having perceptions, as you're having memory. When you grow in intellect, you can think about things differently. Your thought process is a little bit more expanded than this. You ever met somebody who is not, no shade, they're not really knowledgeable, they're not really educated, they're not readers, they don't, you know, and the way they think is you can tell, because their thought process is like, my hands keep doing this, like it's like this, you know, and you're kind of like, thrown a little bit how they looking at certain things a certain kind of way was because they lack knowledge. They don't know. So they just right here, it's like, well, no, my mama said, or my bet. And it's kind of like just right there. But when you start growing in intellect, now you can look at the various dimensions of things. And now you right there in that 0 point, you open, you're purified, your perception is purified. Here you are, you know about a little bit of a lot. And so now insight is easy. You can easily get insight when you're experiencing things, when you're observing, you're able to see, And so you're not so quick to judge. You're like, well, maybe you're able to go, well, maybe, I don't know, let me see. You can take that posture a little bit instead of being so ready to judge it, put it in the box. Okay, good, bad, this, that. No. A lot of times we're doing that because we're afraid and we're trying to control things because we're afraid, because we're pigeonholed. We only have a certain perception, a certain knowledge, we only have that much. And so let me control this. Let me pigeonhole it with a judgment, with a perception. Okay, now let me create my own constructs and everything to protect myself, to help make sure I'm successful, to make sure I win, to make sure let me do all of that. Well, you ain't got to do none of that. Because God got it. You just the vessel. You got the whole wheel. You got the wheel. You holding on with 2 hands. And it ain't even your will. Why? Because you're scared. Why? Because you pass judgment because of your perceptions and because of your lack of knowledge. So you pass judgment at the level of where you are. And you perceive at the level of where you are. And then you create your own traps, your own boxes. But when we refine our judgment and we say, you know what? I ain't gonna judge this good or bad. It is what it is. So, all right, God, show me. I'm ready. I got my popcorn. What's going? Show me what it is. I ain't trying. I don't know nothing. I don't know what's going on. Like just stay there. You know what I mean? And you refine your judgment, and now your perception is purified because all you doing is looking for God. I'm just looking for the reality of God. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see God in everything, the reality of God, so I can truly continue to get to understand God. And then you're growing in your intellect. You're getting to know about everything around you. Wherever spirit leading all of y'all right now to study something. I'm sure. Something has come to mind where it's like, I wonder. And when you may have ignored it, you may have just kind of put it to the side, but listen to those things. Listen to it. I'm trying to think of what recently them popped in my mind and then threw me into a whole rabbit hole. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Well, a few things. The vagus nerve, the nervous system. I've been really thinking about the nervous system. Mountains, because it's shown up in the studies we're doing with the Bible. And it's just got me thinking about mountains and how they show up in different spiritual systems and different scripture and all that kind of stuff. I think those are the 2 right now. Those are the 2. I can't think of anything immediately that come to mind. But these be what we call random thoughts. They be like random thoughts. They just kind of come up like, I want to run. I just start Googling stuff and da-da-da-da. It's a reason. Listen to that. Just take note. You ain't got to know why. Just do it. Am I right? I feel like everybody. Am I the only one? I know we all living, breathing beings. So I'm just assuming I'm not the only one. Where it'd be like, okay, look, I want you to look at this. Go over here and look at that. Go over here and look at this. Study that. Look this up. Think about that. Do this. Follow those. That's your inner guidance system. That's what we call it. Period. It's a reason. You may not know why. you are studying that system right now. I was just thinking about how in 2021, I was totally obsessed with learning about how the heart works. Like I bought books. You would think I'm going to med school. I mean, I was like, I learned so many amazing things about how the heart work and how the veins and the blood and all that type of stuff work, from a spiritual level all the way to a physical level. It helps. Now it's very insightful. That knowledge about the heart, believe it or not, assist me with coaching people, assist me with thinking about how to help people with different ailments they have coming in when they come into the store, assist me with herbs and understanding how herbs work and why this herb is for that herb. And I mean, it's for that ailment and all these different type of things. It helped in so many different ways. It helped grow my insights in so many different ways because I listened to that nudging. I took that and said, I'm going to study this. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now I'm totally obsessed with the nervous system, how it works. It's just, parasympathetic, all these. Now, okay, and I'm going to let it go however it go. I don't know where it's going to take me. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know where it's going to take me. I got an idea, but so intellect serves that insight. You're able to really expand in your vessel as a creator and as a child of God when you grow in your intellect. Okay, so I don't know who this message is for, to maybe tell you, go ahead and buy that book that you got in your cart in Amazon, or go ahead and take that class, or go ahead and, give yourself a little bit more time so you can add in that study time for yourself and, allow your intellect to grow so that you can be more insightful. This is why we were given intellect. It's no other reason. We weren't given intellect so that we can be smart, so that we can get A's, so that we can, go and get a career. I mean, that's good, but that's not why we was given it. We got to know that, it's like we was given it so that we can expand within ourselves and expand into this world and expand into our lives. And it's the lack of knowledge that we don't. Period. That's just what it is. All right. So I ain't gonna hold you because I wasn't even anticipating holding you this long. But as you see, I fully enjoy speaking about these things. One more again. This full moon is in Gemini. Gemini has a very airy vibe, very up there, intellect, intelligence, intuition, insight, communication, how all of these different things, how this thing we call communication is forever happening. It's always happening within us, all around us. It shows up as our thoughts, our feelings, our judgments, perceptions, memories, signs, symbols, all of these different intellect is all of that is communication. The heart is communication to your body right now. Your mind is communicating. Everything is always communicating. When you sleep, your subconscious is communicating to your conscious. When you sleep, your body is communicating. The organs are communicating each other. The freaking cells have a language. It's amazing. You know what I mean? It's just amazing. This whole system of communication is always happening. Okay, so this full moon, let us do some refinement, some reflection and refinement, maybe if needed, so that we can be a cooperative component in this process, be able to be at the 0 point, perceive with a level of insight, because we have allowed ourselves to grow in intelligence, grow in knowledge, so it can help us to be insightful, so we can be like the smart TV, the smartphone, the smart cars, the smart, we can do what spirit, we can know when to listen, know what, you know what I mean? Like, you ever hit that point where you feel like you really in the flow? Like you really can hear spirit, you on point, like you listening, and like that's a good space. And that's where I feel we can be. We just have to be a little bit more conscious, refine sometimes our judgment, because sometimes we definitely be on that, or that, oh my God. 0 point. 0 point. 0 point. How's life? Life is life, and life is good. Life is life, and it's lifing. It's ebbing and flowing, raising and lowering. It's hills and valleys. It's all of it. It's cycles and seasons. It's life, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Well, is it good? It's life. Oh, it's bad? It's life. It's life. It's life. And I'm grateful. It's life and I'm grateful. All right. It's life and I'm wonderful. All right, y'all. Well, full moon is, we having our meditation on Monday. But Sunday I'm doing a sound bath, and members are half off if you're in Atlanta. So come through if you can, Sunday at 6 p.m. But if not, if I don't see you on Sunday, then Monday is the actual online meditation. I'm just checking to make sure of this, because, I just be moving around, honey. I make the little event and I just keep moving. I make it months in advance. So let me just make sure. I believe it is. Yes, 27th. Okay. Because it's on the 27th. It's on Monday. All right. So it's Monday at 7:30 p.m. Sunday, if you come into the sound bath, that's at 6 o'clock p.m. And it's going to be a whole vibe. I'm really hoping we have like a nice evening that's not super cold, so we can go out under the full moon and do some burning. That's the prayer. Even if it is kind of cold, maybe we're going to still go out. I'm pretty sure we are. Yeah. I'm setting intention right now. We're going to do some burning on Sunday here at the garden. But anywho, all right. Well, love and light, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. And I'll see y'all on Monday. Lord willing, and the creek do rise, as I hear some people say.